afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Other Minds and Hands. I am joined, as always, by Maggie Parke, and today we return to the recent drops from Rings of Power Season 2, to the post-Comic-Con, or the Comic-Con drops, really, which we began talking about last week, but had so many other things we were discussing at the same time. We didn't get through all of it. So we're going to begin today going through the trailer a little bit more systematically, and then we're going to take a look at the BTS footage as well.
So this is going to be all Rings of Power today, just because there was so much stuff that came out last week. So we'll dig into it.
That's right. First, though, just a reminder that our Kickstarter for Rings and Realms Season 2 is continuing. We've made a lot of progress on our Kickstarter. We're almost 50% funded now, and that's been really exciting. Many thanks to the dozens of people. We're over 100 backers now who have been really excited to help us achieve our vision here for Season 2 of Rings and Realms. For those of you who didn't get a chance to see our update video, we posted an update video last week announcing something that Other Minds and Hands folks will be interested to hear, and that is that Jordan Rennells of the Long Expected Soundscape is joining our team. So you guys will remember when we talked with Jordan for a couple weeks recently, about a month ago or so, a couple months now, I suppose, perhaps, and about his amazing audio work, the immersive audio engineering that he does, and his...
If you recall that episode, we were just staring at him in shock and awe, like, what have you done? Because it was so amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So Jordan is joining the team. So like if we meet our goals for Kickstarter, we're going to be able to have Jordan coming with us on Rings and Realms, which means we're going to have Rings and Realms with a Jordan Rennells audio like stuff going on with it.
Soundscape, soundtrack, all of the above.
Exactly. Yeah, he's already working now on the new intro sequence, and we're going to be working with him episode by episode. I think it's going to be really, really neat to see how that works, to see how that kind of transforms things. Anyway, so that's going to be really, really fun. We have another big update that we're going to be giving in the next day or two. One thing you can do is subscribe to the Rings and Realms YouTube page. We've been launching videos there. Actually, I kind of recommend it anyway, because if you go to the Rings and Realms YouTube page, you can see both the short video that I made announcing the Kickstarter, and then the video update that we just made. And there's kind of a funny through line through them, which I didn't even really know was happening. So I won't spoil it.
Our friends at Studio Lab wanted to make sure
they were having
other
some
things
fun
were going on and
in
they
these
were paying
videos.
attention.
So look at our Kickstarter announcement video, and then the update number 1 video, and just keep an eye on the background of those. And there will be another update video that we'll be posting, which also you should watch the background on.
That should be out in the next day or two, shouldn't it? So
yeah, it will.
Some more stuff is starting to fall into place. So
exactly,
this means that we get to do some bigger, better, more amazing things with a lot more planning.
Absolutely. So yes, I will give one little mini spoiler that this next update is about a special guest that we are excited to welcome into collaboration with us in Rings and Realms Season 2. So anyway, that is what's going on the prep for Rings and Realms front, which we are so looking forward to. But now let's jump back into the content here. Jump back into
the trailer.
Let's do the trailer first. So we don't need to watch it all the way through. I think we can kind of pause it as we go. But let's begin with this.
We assume you've seen it all by now, but we'll talk through it as it plays. So we talked about that soft focus.
Yeah, and again, just that juxtaposition of the lines. Sauron sees himself as master of all Middle-earth with, ragged, unwashed, cut lip, Halbrand coming in the gates is just a very, very clear picture of the plot arc that they're giving to Sauron for this season, right? This is where he starts. And this is something the showrunner said to me in conversation, that I heard them explaining to other people in conversation, that Sauron is going to begin this season with almost no resources, essentially. And then, how he builds himself up from the ground up is going to be one of the major stories of the season. So, and yes, it is a little bit Phil. I don't think it's actually a donkey that he's arriving on, but I'm hearing you.
A little bit of that vibe, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Very simple. Mm-hmm. Should we have sound, Corey? Or are we just watching?
Should you have sound? Well, I don't know. You want sound? I mean, we
Nameless Arcade just asked. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, boy, hang on.
Don't stress about it.
Updating.
I think we can do it without if we need to. It's all right.
I think I can switch it over. Let me see. Okay. First, we still have your audio, Maggie?
I hope so. Hi.
Okay, good. I hope so too. All right. Yeah, okay. All right. So I think we don't really, as I say, we don't absolutely need it. It's mostly going to be focused on the visuals here.
Yeah.
But notice the juxtaposition that they do right away. I love, so you've got the rings, right? There's Vilya and Nenya bouncing on the ground there, right? Juxtaposed with Sauron's crown, right? So him ruling and the rings tumbling,
falling,
and
bouncing,
then yeah,
dropping.
So Nenya tumbling down towards Galadriel's feet, right?
Yep.
While Galadriel's voice is talking about Sauron's determination to rule all of Middle-earth, right? And remember, she's going to deliver herself of that line later in the trailer about how she doesn't, she thinks that the ring is guiding her, right? And what are we being shown here in this clip? We're being shown the ring bouncing its way towards her, like it's choosing her, right? And she's going to pick it up and put it on. You know what I just noticed?
Direction.
Look what's in the background here. Look what's lying on those stone steps. It's the withered, dead black leaves of the linden tree.
Oh.
Right? So this is the great tree in Linden, which is corrupted, and we see in at least one shot in the trailer or somewhere, we saw a wide angle view of it, of like it more than half dead, right? And those are definitely the blackened dead leaves that have fallen from the tree, and we can see the blackened roots of the tree. So the corruption of the tree of Linden serves as the backdrop for Nenya bouncing down the stairs towards Galadriel's feet. Yeah, exactly. Eric says, so the ring is presenting itself as a remedy, potentially, but again, both the association with, that's obviously how Galadriel takes it, right? With her speaking of guidance and stuff. But yeah, I've been saying ever since the first images from season 2 came out that the shadiness of the 3 rings that they seem to be really leaning into is one of the things that I am really fascinated to see. I also predict this is going to be something a lot of people are going to have a hard time with. I mean, a lot of Tolkien readers think of the 3 as just, the 3 are all good, and it's only the others that are bad, right? And I have always disagreed with Tolkien readers about that. Not with all Tolkien readers, but many Tolkien readers have often said that. I think that an overestimation of the pure goodness of the 3 is very common, and also people tend to over heroicize Galadriel. Galadriel's they're dubious, seriously dubious elements. I won't go so far as to call Galadriel shady, but she does a lot of questionable things in the chapters in which we meet her in The Lord of the Rings. And I think that that's another thing that often readers overlook or underestimate. Anyway, yeah. So
Yeah, and
I
also
can-
just the shot of this. I mean, the dropping I think is really significant. The fact that the rings are falling, the fact that they're going down steps,
yep.
and that they're going from right to left down. So that is counter to everything that should move us forward.
Yes. Yes.
Not an accident.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then we get, so notice the transitions. We've got the ring down, and then we're zooming away from, and you just like the shady eye movements, right?
Yeah.
From King Durin here, as he's looking around from side to side and pulling back, and he's holding an axe and wearing the ring of power on his finger, right? Already yeah.
And his look is super unsettling. So the pull back with him holding an axe, I mean, he's on guard, he's ready to attack. So with us pulling back, we now recognize that there's a threat that he's preparing for. So having that juxtaposed to the rings falling down, it just kind of solidifies that these are not good.
Yeah, the possessiveness. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then of course the cut immediately to Adar and the orcs, right? It's almost like a sort of a gradient, right? It's like, oh, look, the three rings. Context of Sauron's power and dominion with the crown. Oh, and the ring is coming straight to Galadriel. Is that good? Well, is it good when it comes to the dwarves? I don't know. And then, there's Adar and the orcs, like to show evil gathering. You know, it's almost like a gradient, right? From Galadriel to, like the 3 to the 7, and now to the orcs themselves, right?
And that line that juxtaposed right after Durin, it's like he's obviously preparing for a threat, and our next shot is Adar with his army.
Yes.
So, we don't know that that's actually the threat in that scene. It could have been edited that way, but that's sure what works.
Right. The threat exists, and now it's still bouncing right down to her feet. And this, there it is. That's the shot I was talking about. Look at that. There's barely any living leaves left on the great tree in Linden. And again, this is the scene. Like, there's Galadriel and her feet, right? With I don't know if the ring is there right here, but like this is the scene.
Also interesting how this is framed. Like, we're not there. We're not up front. We're stuck back in this kind of cave space. So we're not part of this. We're seeing it from afar. We're not invited to be that close to it.
We're entering in, right? We're moving towards it, but yeah, it kind of distances.
We're starting as other.
Yeah, it frames us, right? Her stooping down and picking it up, and Elrond's concern, and she just puts it straight on. Is this other dude Círdan, the shipwright?
Maybe.
Probably.
Well,
I can't see his beard. But I don't know who. It's not Elrond. Hair's too long. It's not Celebrimbor.
Don't think so. It does look like there's a bit of a beard there.
Yeah, right. And then we go straight to this. So I assume, yes, that's Círdan the shipwright who's taking Narya. But look at the lighting difference, right?
Yeah.
Like all this, dark and shadowy stuff. And then, but no, it's all good. Right now it's all...
Golden light of hope.
The golden light of hope. And look at all those leaves on the tree. Is this a flashback?
I mean, this doesn't feel like the same space. Maybe this is a daydream of the joy and hope that it could bring. She puts it on and feels...
Right.
Because look, it touches her finger and she sees that,
yes.
right?
Yes, you're right. I mean, it goes from... This is...
It's like a vision of saving. And she said the ring guides me. So maybe it is a vision of why she felt so strongly to put it on, as opposed to an actuality.
Right, that this is the weave, this is the reality. And then we go and then that's the vision. It's possible, maybe they can use the rings to cleanse the tree, and this is an actual transformation, right? Possibly. But yeah, the idea of this transition from, and because you can still see the grayness in the background, right? The sky behind is still gray. Those like little blue sky and these like slate black clouds. Real contrast between that grayness in the background, which looks like, I'm trying to cut back to, yeah, see, we got the gray skies behind the tree here in the dark scene, and those clouds are still there in the background, but everything in the foreground is a beautiful glow of gold, including the tree restored. And it certainly is something that is one way or another, whether it's a vision or whether it's the reality, whether they actually are, through the power of the three, able to cleanse the tree, which strikes me as very possible. And yeah, as who was just talking about this, as Mrs. Manrique was just saying, it's like the Malorn trees, right? The leaves of gold. Do we have Galadriel here for the first time singing of trees of gold, and trees of gold there grew, or rather the tree that was there grew gold again, right? The power that the three rings have in the book is to preserve all things unstained, right? So that the three rings could be exerted in order to preserve or restore the tree, and therefore symbolically, elvendom here on Earth, is, I think that's very, I think that's very likely. I think it's very likely that they would do that, or they would show that, or maybe it's some kind of vision. But in any case, the build up to this is fascinating, because I don't think, I love the multiple interpretations that are possible, right? On the one hand, it could be, oh, look at how gray and unhopeful things are until Galadriel puts on the ring, right? And now everything's great, right? Oh, look at that, how everything's recovered. But at the same time, or it could be a deception, right? It could be the grayness that comes before seems to be associated with the rings themselves. Anyway. That is a fascinating, I hadn't thought through. And then we get immediately to the famous hand picture of the three of them with the three rings.
And I think I say that even this exact shot in the opening of Peter Jackson's trilogy, the three coming together, that's a sign of strength, that's a sign of unity. So the positioning of these three hands, it's really implying strength, and the warmth is implying strength. But the camera I find really interesting, because the camera is so mobile in this shot and spinning.
Yes.
I don't know. The movement just kind of feels counter to that feeling of strength. But that could also just be trailer talk to move us along. It's just shifting us from A to B.
Right. One of the other things that I think is interesting, comparing it with the Peter Jackson moment, right, is the color. That was a very washed out, dark, almost black and white kind of sequence, right, with them. And this is just the suffusion of gold that we get, not just from any time we see Gil-galad's wardrobe in the shot, right, which is continuously, but yeah, there's so much more color, and it's of all of the things that they have done in the Rings of Power so far, that is a direct callback to the Peter Jackson films. This one is my favorite. This is my favorite callback so far.
Do you think it's full-on deliberate, or do you think it's just a really good way to show three rings together?
I mean, on the one hand, it's I think it's deliberate. If I'm remembering it correctly, and somebody who has a closer memory or can pull up an image quickly of this shot in the Peter Jackson film can remind me, but isn't the sequence even the same? Galadriel, Gil-galad, I think it's Celebrimbor instead of Círdan, I suspect. But most importantly, Galadriel is in the same position, isn't she?
She's bottom right. I'm going to send it to you in the chat.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, so, aha, okay.
She's definitely in the same spot.
Yeah, she's definitely in the same. Okay, right. Vilya and Narya are switched.
Yeah.
Vilya and Narya are switched. So there's the Peter Jackson shot of the three of them. Again, notice that to me the number one shift is the shift from is the coloration, right?
It's the cold to warm. Yeah.
Cold to warm, yeah, exactly. From the white light to the gold light. Yeah, it's a huge.
And especially with the line that she has later of it guides me. This is a feeling of hope, not necessarily straight up power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Interesting. Awesome. Okay. And then from here, right, we get back to Elrond. Hang on, let's hear Elrond.
You have all become his collaborators.
Ouch. You have all become his collaborators. Remember how that sequence began with her talking about Sauron wanting to achieve mastery and seeing his crown juxtaposed with the three, right? And then the end of that initial ring sequence concludes with Elrond saying you've become his collaborators. Yeah. Okay. And then we get Elrond and Galadriel, though, going together. The fact that we see them galloping together there, and that was them, right? Yes, it is. Galadriel and Elrond. Okay. The fact that then we see Galadriel and Elrond galloping together, not in armor, right? Neither one of them yet in armor.
But with great urgency.
With great urgency, right? Shows that we see the two of them in conflict, right? From Elrond's like jumping forward to say no when he sees Galadriel grabbing it to his damning words of her being Sauron's collaborator. We still see the two of them working together, right? And they are headed towards, we're not told because that's something different. They're headed towards Linden, I believe, right? Is what we're seeing there in the background.
And light is still warm and bright.
Yeah.
I think that's important for 2 of 5 as well, that, lighting wise, we're in season 2 of 5. Everything's still bright and hopeful and optimistic and foundation laying.
Right. The juxtaposition here to the 5 people walking, I think that's still Elrond and Galadriel in a different context. Yes, that more of this context. We've seen them, this overland march with Galadriel with her bow, right? So this, multi-stage quest of theirs together, right? Heading off, and I notice, of course, needless to say, that Galadriel and Elrond are moving from left to right in 1, 2, 3 different sequences here.
Very much
4.
journeying forward together.
Yep, journeying forward together. This is where she says that she thinks the ring is guiding her. And the line about the ring guiding her is juxtaposed with her coming to a dead end. I think not accidentally. Right? I mean, I'm correct about that, right? Hang on. Let's get the sound.
But I believe it is guiding me.
Yeah, straight off a cliff, apparently. So, I mean, at least that's what I'm picking up, right? It's what I'm picking up from the visuals that they're showing me here.
And it's not just a dead end; it's a really ragged, dark, stony, hard dead end.
Yes.
Whereas all the stuff before that was lush green grass and beautiful, warm mountainsides, and then you get that.
You get ruins, the ruins of a bridge. Yeah. Because again, this is not even just like a normal cliff. This is a cliff. This is like a ravine that used to have a bridge across it, but now does not. Like, it's now ruinous. It's now broken. You can just see in one frame there, the other side of the bridge. See? On the other side of the chasm there.
Yeah.
So this is a bridge that has been so there is a place to be led, right? Like, this is a path. They're still on a path through the lush green countryside, but now there is this chasm in the middle. So where is this? I I don't see that we've picked up any clear... I don't think we yet know or have much reason to suspect exactly what quest they're going on here, right? There's some kind of quest seems to be clear, that she and Elrond and a few others go out, and we know they're going to be encountering the Barrowites in that context, right? It's that grouping that encounters the Barrowite in that sequence that we've seen several times. We see them traveling. We're also going to see them. We're also going to see them at the battle, of course, at the end, but that seems a different thing. Elrond's going to find his armor between now and then, right? Yeah, Keaton asks, hey, Keaton, is it supposed to recall the Bridge of Khazad-dûm? Because that's what comes to mind with this shot. Something like that. I mean, it is like an outdoor version of the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, in a sense. Like it's a broken bridge over a chasm. Yeah.
Well, and I think any kind of broken bridge is going to make us think about what is under there, right? Like, we can't not be scarred by the Bridge of Khazad-dûm.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It does seem to be an elvish construction, I agree. The lamp that we can see on the post there certainly looks elvish. I say certainly. No, I think so. It's a little too swoopy and curvy to be dwarvish, though it's conceivable. As the dwarves, of course, build roads and bridges too. Yeah, I don't know exactly where this would be. Again, I have no clear sense of what direction they head. I don't know, for instance, does the Barrowite encounter give us any clue about the direction of their travel? I'm not positive that it does, because maybe they're encountering the Barrowites in the greater region of the Barrow Downs. Maybe these are somewhere else. I don't really know. To some extent, I have to admit, I'm kind of like, if we're finding Tom Bombadil and Rune, who knows where the Barrowites could be, right? We're wandering all over the place. So, not really sure. But anyway, so yeah, it is possible, as a couple people are suggesting, that Sauron has done something to destroy the connection between, the travel between Lindon, to impede travel between Lindon and Eregion. That's certainly conceivable. But yeah, we'll sort of see about that. But again, remember, what the trailer is doing is juxtaposing Galadriel's line about the ring's guidance with this moment, right? Yeah. Whether or not that is exactly how things are going to turn out, that's the direction the trailer is pointing us towards. From here, image-wise, we can go back and listen to the audio, but image-wise, we get orcs, and we get Sauron still in his Halbrand costume, right? Ripped clothing in the back, still ragged and unwashed, turning around in that really ominous light with the shadow light with the firelight behind him.
Camera slightly below him, looking up, making him seem more powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Really dead center in that frame, too, with a pretty creepy background.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure this is just Eregion, but it does, like, this shot makes it look vaguely like Minas Morgul or something, right? I mean, it looks like that kind of a location here. If you didn't know any better, right? If you just had this shot and you're like, hey, this is Sauron, where is he? Right? Somebody might guess something like, is it Minas Morgul? Is this somewhere on Barad-dûr? I mean, it has that kind of a creepy
alien
feel.
Planet,
Yeah, it has a...
Can you go back to the scene before? Because I'm just thinking about this camera angle. The one of Galadriel, I think, was over her shoulder and then up, right? So go back a tiny bit more. So yeah, we're over her shoulder looking down.
Yeah, over her shoulder looking down, yeah.
So
and then we're looking up at
making her susceptible, making us feel nervous for her, and then looking up. That's and drawing away while looking up. I mean, that kind of implies powerless. Like, she's at the edge. We're pulling.
She
back,
looks stranded. Yeah.
She looks stranded, and it looks a little treacherous. And then juxtaposing that with Sauron with that slight up angle makes him look wicked powerful. So those two next to each other are pretty cool too.
Yeah, especially kind of like the casual way in which he's turning around towards the camera, but just before he gets to face the camera, it goes to dark.
Black.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to see this.
Exactly. Yeah. And then this is one of the really fascinating. So this shot right here, the hand with Narya, which again has to be Círdan the Shipwright's hand, right? We know Círdan is in this show. He's the one who gets Narya. Like, what Círdan's role is still a pretty big mystery, which I think is fun. But anyway,
we don't know a lot from Silmarillion about him, right?
Círdan is a fascinating character. On the one hand, he's been around almost as long as Tolkien's been writing this stuff, and yet the most that we know about him is literally his name, Círdan the Shipwright. So he makes ships. Like, I think he's in a couple stories in the Silmarillion. Like, you know, Tolkien included him in the. But anyway, we almost never meet him.
But he gets a ring and therefore becomes amazing fodder for people who are writing this story.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And this shot of him reaching down into the water, what does this make you think of? This makes me.
Gollum.
Yes, exactly. Or Deagle reaching down and finding the ring under the water, right?
Yep.
No, it's not that, right? Also, I have to admit, with that little fish, I kept expecting him to grab the fish.
Like Gollum.
Right.
No, and I think you're right though. Like, I mean, we're not supposed to read into this like, oh, he's just like Gollum, but there's a lot of visual cues that are not unfortunate for us to connect it with Peter Jackson's trilogy. Like, it's keeping us in Middle Earth.
Yes.
It's giving us these moments. Like, not many of us just walk around dipping our hands into the water. Like, that's a pretty conscious choice.
Yeah.
To have.
Yeah, I mean, the way that he reaches down, and I agree with Eric. And once again, in the Peter Jackson shot, it's almost black and white, extremely cold lighting. It's underwater, you can't see much. Look how bright and multicolored, and it's just throbbing with life under this water.
And Nameless Arcanum spots it looks like coral, so it's a seabed. Yeah, you know, that could be like a beautiful, lush, wonderful seabed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Could be, you know, probably is the shores of the sea. Yeah, exactly. And again, that's Círdan reaching, and we don't know why he's reaching in or what he's doing. But we juxtapose this with, what even is that? Okay, so this is the clearest we get. We get a bunch of...
Looks like a mine.
Is it dwarves?
I can't tell what the silhouette is, but...
Is it orcs? It's orcs. I think it's orcs. This is the Sauron... It looks like the Sauron blast from the teaser.
Blast from the teaser. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are orcs. I think you can see, look at this one down here.
And the jagged angles, that looks very unwelcoming. That would make sense.
Yeah. I think this is... Yeah, the epicenter of the frosty blast that we saw in the first trailer. Yep, that's probably it. Right, and then just whoosh. Disturbingly juxtaposed with Linden again. Now here we get Gil-galad. Notice the tree is dead again. The light is warm and golden.
But it also looks like late autumn rather than early spring, you know, whereas the other one looked so lush and bright. This looks much more like decaying.
Yeah, this could well be... This look... So, I mean, notice, although it's in the same place, that is in front of the tree, there's not all those other people and everything. So, like, the sort of ceremony, which seemed to be the taking of the 3 rings and then the 3 of them standing together with their hands in the center, that you know, this is not that scene. This is a different scene, probably an earlier scene, with the tree still dead. And this is him questioning. This leads to him questioning. I don't know if this is the same scene, though it looks like it. Elrond is in the same position, standing in the back. It was the 3 of them in the same clothing and same basic positioning, where he is asking her awkward questions about Halbrand, who is being brought in with Celebrimbor shutting the door on the two of them.
Locking them in.
So we have the revelation, he is no man, leading to Anatar and Celebrimbor, the revelation of Anatar to Celebrimbor, him calling himself the sharer of gifts. Patrick McKay said at Comic-Con that I think I said this before, that they lobbied to, he says Anatar, he says his name right after he says sharer of gifts, apparently. And they wanted to include that in the trailer, but they lost that battle, apparently, with the trailer makers. I'm interested in the role that they give to the Barow White scene in the middle of the sequence, right? So this is the whole Anatar reveal juxtaposed with her telling an angry-looking Gil-galad about Halbrand, right? But then sandwiched in the middle of those is the Barow Whites.
I mean, my thought for like the uninitiated is that you need a real obvious visual threat.
Right.
And Anatar is not going to deliver that.
Right.
We know that, like, and we've seen it from the trailer, that like tiny twist of the hand that knocked all the guards out, like that's great and subtle. But in a trailer, you kind of need like a blast of a baddie. And with the circling of this camera and everything super dark, these ethereal, floating, demon-like things with glowing eyes, our strong warriors obviously looking not scared, but prepared to fight and intimidated, like they're taking this fight seriously. That's a threat.
Right,
So I guess that's
exactly. Yeah, and the sense in which, right, it isn't necessarily about juxtaposing the Barow Whites themselves. It's about conveying the idea that evil is surrounding them and the good guys are being like backed into not a corner, but they're being backed into a circle, right, with everyone else around, with darkness and evil surrounding them. That image is then being juxtaposed with Anatar's emergence from the flames. And yes, Troy, I completely agree with you. If it makes you think of the story in the book of Daniel about the fiery furnace, I think that is not an accident. That choice, this reveal is, it's just gorgeous, first of all. And I think it's really, really cool.
I wonder what's going through Celebrimbor's head at this whole point, though. Like, how does this happen in your workshop and you don't look at it and go, something might be afoot here?
See, that's the thing, is that, so the Anatar story, the way that he deceives Celebrimbor in the books is that he doesn't try, like, he reveals himself to be a creature of power. He's just like, but I'm an angel of light, right? Like, I have come from Valinor to help you in your super important work, right? Because what you're doing is really like the
yeah. I guess we're suspicious with 2020 hindsight. It's in the moment of people that are very much prone to support that happening, for him to be like, of course, fantastic, wonderful, come help me.
Yes, so like, it's a combination of like, do you believe that the Valar in the West would give assistance? And if so, what kind of assistance would they give? And yeah, they totally would give assistance. And would they give assistance in the form of like angelic messengers who get sent over in bodily form in order to render aid? That's exactly what they do with the wizards, right? So yeah, absolutely, this is the kind of thing that you could expect to happen. And then you add like the little ego stroking, right? You have been acknowledged as the most accomplished smith and craftsman, and this great work that you are attempting to undertake, like, the Valar agree. It is super important. Like, you must be able to, like, complete this thing. And so I've been sent to assist you in your mighty work. Like, oh man. Yeah. That's, at least conceptually, that's sort of the approach here. Right, exactly, Diomedia. That's exactly the kind of help that the Valar would send. There are multiple, not just the wizards, but as you say, multiple examples of that kind of thing. Okay, so here is, all right, we've got Anatar coming.
Yeah, like Nameless Arcanum saying the awe in Celebrimbor's face. Yeah, it really is absolute awe that helps kind of solidify the role that he's playing there.
It's the combination of the two things that do him in are the combination of the two things: the awe and reverence for the Valar and what he's seeing, and his own pride, right?
Yeah.
That yes, like of course he's come to share gifts with me. Of course I've been chosen, right, to receive these gifts. Of course the work that I'm undertaking is so important. Okay. This shot. This is the transition to Rune shot, I think, right? With the terrain, with the, the sort of strange dress. This is just different from what we've seen elsewhere, right?
Even the horizons, like look how much sky we have in this one.
Yes.
And there obviously are mountains, but they're not emphasizing that. With the other one, it was all about height and lush mountains and forests and rivers, and there's just sky in this, so it just from the start looks other, and we get the opposite. We get a desert.
Yeah.
And the next bit's a mad lens, right? It's like a distorting, bubbly lens,
right?
Yeah.
Juxtaposed with the spyglass from these folks. So whether one of these folks is the person that we're seeing here, it seems likely, right? Here, so we're having strange figures wearing bizarre masks,
nothing seen before,
looking at what is clearly Nori and the stranger. Right, so we have probable threats moving in, then juxtaposed with the stranger performing some kind of magic, which looks like the opening sequence of season 1 with the sand, right? And which therefore connects what he's doing with the music of the Valar, with the music of the Ainur as well. Gustavo, acting from Charles Williams is looking great this season. I hope they give him enough on-screen time. From everything I've heard, you will get your wish. This is Charles Edwards' big season. Probably final season as well, but it's his big season for sure. Yes. Interesting. Yeah, Tyler says, I do love the first word that comes to mind to describe the people from Rune is strange. Yes.
Yeah.
That is a Lord of the Rings word there for sure.
Nori's hair got bigger in the desert.
Nori's hair, as it does. And then we have the moths here, which clearly connect, just in case we were missing it, right? These figures with the death moth ladies at the end.
And tying them together like they are often with the stranger, so we know that their journey continues alongside each other.
Right.
And very ceremonial, very cultish in this scene.
Yes, with the sand temple, desert temple looking location and the ritual postures.
5 women running around like this. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the raising of the staff. And then I love that she raises the staff and he slams his little stick down. Right. And now we get the swirling of the moths, the glittering swirling of the golden moths now juxtaposed with the huge tornado, which I think he's then kicking up. And then we have Nori and presumably Poppy there at her back, clinging, which sort of suggests if he has summoned this from his little stamping my stick down, he is once again bringing them into danger with his power, as he did in the previous scene. And yes, Nameless Arcanum, the color palette, as you say, this shift towards this almost like sepia tone thing that's ever since we shifted to Rune, right? It's been all in this kind of sepia tone palette. I
mean, you'd almost think it was like a Wild West vibe, but I think it is just to make it feel so separate from what we saw before.
Yep. And no, so Antone, It is entirely there is no mystery box about his identity. Yes, there have been a lot of people have been stirring that up. I do not at all. But there was a lot of marketing that prompted us, almost tried to compel us to ask the "Who is Sauron?" question last season. There hasn't been any of that. There have been a few questions that they have been unwilling to answer, and have just been saying "you'll see" instead. But that is not the same as stirring up mystery box. As far as the wizard's identity, they've shown that. They're showing that right now. He's going in the east. He's a blue wizard. What do you need to know? Seriously, yeah, he's a blue wizard. Yeah. If he's Gandalf the Blue, I don't care. But I still say, I've been saying, and I continue to say, he's not Gandalf. I do not believe he's Gandalf, and I'm not
ready to give that one up.
I'm not changing my mind about that.
Fair enough.
Okay, now we have Tom Bombadil. Notice that the colors are warmer here than they were outside. They're richer. We still get notice the desert light up in the top right of this shot, right, juxtaposed with the warmer candlelight that we get, on his. So he's sort of lit in the background by the sunlight, but then his face is lit by the candles. I think that's.
Yep. And that we have this really safe space. I mean, we've seen one enclosed space in the desert landscape, but that was ceremonial, creepy.
Yeah.
Temple. This is very cozy in a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit type vibe.
Yes. Oh, then straight to Pharaz&. The juxtaposition of Tom Bombadil and Pharaz&. Here
I
is
know,
really
that
interesting.
jump really bothered me because we spent so long with the elves and the Sauron story.
Right.
And then it feels a little bit like we're just trying to rush to get everybody else a little bit of screen time.
Especially because this is a reasonably long Rune sequence in the middle with the stranger.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's been all stranger, Nori, and Rune stuff, for quite some time. And then a sudden juxtaposition to Pharaz&, looking into the Palantir. Then we get the three flames, right? The fire in the Palantir, the flames of the forge with Anatar, or whatever it is that's being burned. No, that's actually the head of the Balrog. Look.
That's the head of the Balrog.
Emerging from the flames.
How have I not noticed that before?
I just thought it was fire.
But it sure looks like it's him at the forge, right?
It's totally him at the forge.
But it's an actual Balrog coming out of the forge.
It is an actual Balrog head in the forge. Yes. Yep. There is no question. That is a Balrog head right there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, Eric, that's not the actual Balrog. I don't think he's actually crammed the Balrog into a brazier there in the forge. But is this a vision? Is this...
Right, is this him creating?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think it's a baby Balrog, though I love the idea.
I do love the idea of baby Balrog.
Where do baby Balrogs come from? Right?
Apparently from this brazier.
Exactly. Well, because notice...
Maybe he's got to rear them somewhere.
Notice the image, the transition, right? We've got fire in the heart of the Palantir, which is clearly a vision that Pharaz&. Is about to see, right? And then we get to the actual Balrog, flapping his wings of shadow around. And people keep asking me, what do you think about what the Balrog wings? I think that John Howe designed it, and John Howe has never liked wingless Balrogs. John Howe hates wingless Balrogs, and I get it. Winged Balrogs look cooler. I've always said that in defense of visual artists who want to give them wings, and John Howe has always been in the forefront of visual artists who want to give Balrogs wings. But I do think that his concession to the text of actually having them be made of shadow and smoke is kind of fun. Anyway, So we get actual Balrog hopping around and flapping his shadowy wings, and with his like sort of sword of flame or whatever it is, right? And so this image is the transition between the two of them. So we've got vision, fiery Balrog, vision of fiery Balrog in between, but with Anatar looking down at it, right?
Yeah.
The questions that this shot make me ask are things like, is Sauron going to communicate with the Balrog? Right? Is that what's, is he showing Celebrimbor a vision of the Balrog?
This suggests an ability to control almost.
Yes. The little miniature Balrog in a brazier standing next to him suggests, it's a potted Balrog, right? That he has.
I'm not saying that's like exactly what's going to happen, but that's definitely what this suggests.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The way in which, anyway, so some connection. This proves, at the very least, an awareness, right? That Sauron knows the Balrog is there. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, I think that's sort of unquestionable after this. But what this is, how he's shaping this, I don't know. But I do think that, well, I don't know. It certainly does imply some connection between the two. Yeah. Even the way that it serves as a bridge. I think that it's a vision. I think that it's him looking at the Balrog. That he can somehow use fire to, see the Balrog, like use the fire as some kind of, and possibly even as a communication mechanism. Just like, again, Palantir, vision and communication, right? So is that what's happening here? Is he turning this fiery brazier into a little Balrog Palantir, right? Little communication with the Balrog.
I was going to say exactly what Phil just said. It suggests he knows there's a Balrog somewhere in Middle-earth. Yeah, at least that alerts him to that, but we don't know. And
notice the movement. The movement is the Balrog rising.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The Balrog is rising out of the flames. And then jumping down. Right. And then we get the transition to the dwarves. So that certainly was just a tiny teaser of Numenor, and we transition to the dwarves, young Durin saying that he should stop using the ring and then getting chucked across the room for it. Now we go back in Numenor. We've got the white tree. We've got the audience chamber. Now is when we start doing rapid images all over the place.
Yeah, we're getting to the last
problem among the dwarves.
This is the first time we've got words over the screen, so we're starting to get the trailer messages driven to our faces.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's Tom Bombadil and the Stranger looking out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Tom Bombadil and the Stranger looking out over the not very attractive landscape of Rune. I think we're looking at this. I think this is desolation, like in the Tolkien sense, like desolation of Smaug-esque desolation. I think this looks like Tom Bombadil showing the Stranger, look what's happening around here.
Right.
Right. Look at how this landscape has been blasted. This used to be, a rich, green, fertile valley. Look at it now, right? Proto-Brownlands, something like that. Exactly. This isn't the Brownlands themselves, but something like Druid's Fire suggests Proto-Brownlands, I think, is exactly what we're seeing here.
Same kind of example.
Yeah, exactly. So Tom Bombadil, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we should expect to see. So like, those death moth ladies from out east, right? Are they up to good or are they up to no good, right? Well, here's the answer, right? No good. Look at the effect that it's having on the world around it. Now, lots of rapid images. The murder of Sauron.
Lots of stabbing, lots of destruction.
The battle coming in.
Full on Elrond warrior mode.
Man, okay. There's so much to parse here.
I love how we said we'd spend just a little bit of time on the trailer.
Just a little bit of time. Oh,
guys,
man.
we gotta dig in.
Then Shelob.
Yeah.
And the ends.
Confirmed end wife.
Yeah. Confirmed end wife. The eagle. Okay. So let's go back and look at the one thing that was lacking here in the trailer was we had a good elf sequence, we had a good rune sequence, we had a good dwarf sequence. We've not gotten a clear Num&eacute sequence. What we get are separated images, right? So let's do a little bit of Num&eacute cherry picking here. Like, that is, let's look at the Num&eacute story that we're given.
Yeah.
The whole Num&eacute story. Let's kind of piece it together. Our Pharaz&, sorry, probably our Pharaz& by now. That would mean he's king, right? That, I assume, is going to be one of the things that's going to be happening in this season, is him becoming king. So we've got Pharaz& at the very least, looking into the Palant&icirc and glowy fire.
And we were introduced to the Palant&icirc last season, so we know that him discussing it is a bit of an issue.
This, I think, is a really cool shot. You know what I think is cool about it? The last thing we saw was Pharaz& looking into a Palant&icirc and seeing the flames within it. Should that make us think about Sauron? Yes, that absolutely should make us think about Sauron and what we see in the Palant&icirc in the Lord of the Rings, right? Now, it's not exactly that, but that's what it's designed to make us think of. And then we come over the top of this gilded dome in Num&eacute. And what should that make us think of? Oh, what does that make us think of? But we know that this is a little foreshadowing. I think is a little foreshadowing. Because in Num&eacute, when Sauron comes to Num&eacute and corrupts our Pharaz&, he is going to make a temple to Morgoth where they're going to do human sacrifices and stuff. And the most famous element, the most famous part of that temple is its huge dome. That is going to be up on top of the hill. So this is a dome on top of a hill, but it's not that dome. This is just the normal dome, right? That looks down on the white tree and the place that we've seen before. But that transition, again, it's not a transition directly from but it's the second thing we see. The first thing we see is Pharaz& and the Palant&icirc. The second thing we see is that dome then looking down on the white tree right below us. Then notice, of course, we then immediately get the forging of the ring juxtaposed with this rock smashing a bridge. This is in Khazad-dûm, not in Num&eacute, right? But it kind of looks like the pier, we're looking down on it from a similar kind of height. Now here we go again. Now we're in Num&eacute again. We've seen this kind of a rocky shore shot of Num&eacute with once again. In fact, we've seen exactly this shot with the Meneltarma in the background, right? Pillar of Heaven. Mm-hmm. Okay. Remember when this voice was calling out to Isildur, right? From the land, this was like that shot that we were getting. But now we can see this gathering on the sea. What are they doing? This gathering on the shore. What are they doing on the shore? Muriel is taking a bath. So we see this ritual descent of Muriel into the water, which looks slightly baptism-esque. Certainly ritual.
That's a pull from the previous one. She had to battle the sea worm.
Yes, exactly. That is certainly what it is. Yes. Then again, we're Num&eacute cherry picking. We've got battles. We've got Adar. We've got explosions and stabbed elves. Right. Battles. We've got Tom Bombadil. We've got Antwives.
Everybody preparing to fight, preparing to fight.
Right. Then here we go. Right. Preparing to fight. Hang on a second. The sails are coming down on that ship.
Yeah.
The sails
Something's arriving?
are descending. Or, like, that looks like an unpreparing for battle. Then we see Elendil looking sort of armed. Was everybody holding... Why do they all have...
Ledgers?
Clothes? Those folded bundles of clothes? I don't know what's going on there.
Well, maybe that's their uniform and they've just been recruited.
Maybe. Hang on, I'm still doing Num&eacute cherry picking. There we go. Now we see the eagle arriving. There's Pharaz&ocirc standing in front of it. Him turning around and walking towards it. And did we get another Numenor shot? We're now attacking. Battle is joined. No, we don't. That's it. So the shot of him drawing the sword we got in the previous trailer, but we don't get it repeated here. Okay. Sea Guard uniforms and daggers. Diomedes, yes, that seems likely. Yep. Yeah, I agree. That seems likely what's happening there. Yep. They've all been just... I think this is the Sea Guards that Isildur no longer is going to be able to join because he's dead, as far as Elendil knows, right? Though he's still a captain in the Sea Guard. So yeah, that's probably what that was. Okay. Celebrimbor dropping the 9 rings into the fire. And
Starting to look really quite possessed.
Yes, and Anatar saying... That's one of the 9. Mm-hmm. Definitively. That he's holding there.
You will give me the 9.
I love the pause before that. You will give me the 9. That seems to be the source of the conflict, that Celebrimbor is attempting to withhold the 9 rings from Sauron.
Mm-hmm. So do you think he clocks it, that this isn't a good partnership?
Yeah, I think this is after he's figured this out. Yes. Interesting. Okay. Robert Aramayo was so excited. He got to design his sword with John Howe. So he was just like, he was like a litlittle kid talking about like getting to work with John Howe and like designing the sword and then having it made. He was so excited about that.
That's it.
Yeah. Keaton, they do sort of use the plot of the 3 for the 9. Yeah, and that's it's a consequence of the shift in sequence, right? Having the 3 forged first, going as the showrunners say, in poem sequence rather than in the narrative sequence that's used in the films, and which I think is really interesting, and I think can work really well. I think in a lot of ways makes a lot of sense. I say makes a lot of sense because to keep the sequence that they have in the books, you would have to explain something which Tolkien never explains, which is, where was Anatar when Celebrimbor made the 3? Elrond says that Sauron's hand never touched them or sullied them, but he never says why not,
Yeah.
Right? Like, where does he go? Why is he away? What does he tell? Like, how does that go down? Right? Why is it that in order to make the three greatest, the three greatest rings, he leaves? And I'm not saying that these are questions that are impossible to answer. I'm just saying they're questions that Tolkien doesn't answer in the course of the narrative. So it's again, it's another classic example. People have been complaining about, oh, they deviated from the sequence in the book. But again, like, why? What's the interest? What's at stake there, right? And what even is the story of the original sequence of the making of the ring? Like, what are the two stories that they're choosing between? And if you think about those in more, rather than just saying, frankly, kind of blindly, oh, well, but that's not how it happened in the book. Right? Well, what is the book story then, right? And how does that story unfold as we get it in the text, compared to how they're unfolding this version of the story here? And then we can understand more clearly, like, what choices they're making, which can help us to understand why they might be making these choices. So, I mean, I think it works very interestingly. And of course, we'll wait to see how the forging of the Seven and the Nine come in that whole story of Anatar and Celebrimbor. So there's a lot that we will see about how that emerges. But and so without it, we can't really say for sure. But it certainly is an answer to the question, why exactly is Sauron not right at Celebrimbor's side with the forging of the three? And the answer is because he hadn't arrived as Anatar yet, right? He arrives after that.
And I think important to keep in mind just our long discussion about the condensing of the timeline too, because we're seeing a lot of some of that stuff here, that things are probably going to be rearranged in ways that we don't know yet. And again, a trailer tells us very little, because they can cut it together however they want just to get the urgency or the excitement going. Just like you said, even the showrunners tried to get something into the trailer and they were shot down. Like,
yes,
the trailer is gonna give us a different vibe than what actually happens. But yeah, it's good to take it with a grain of salt that what's happening here might not be exactly
right.
What we know anyway.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So
Sorry, I'm laughing at Dorward saying, I thought that Anatar, that was very confusing to me as well. And then she goes, Anatar, autocorrect.
Yeah.
And then Anatar becomes Anatar.
Yeah. Anatar is good. I like Anatar.
Anatar, the code word.
Yeah. Right. Spillcob, yeah, no, I agree. Those two things coincide. That is Celebrimbor making the three and Anatar leaving in order to go forge the One Ring. But again, how did that story go down? How resistant is Celebrimbor? Does Celebrimbor suspect? Does he make the three on his own because he suspects? That's a possible reading of it. But is that how the story goes? What did Anatar tell Celebrimbor? Hang on, I got a thing. I gotta go somewhere and do something. But don't worry, it has nothing to do with like forging a ring of domination or anything. Like I gotta go somewhere to do a thing, right? Again, this is one of the things that I have discovered time and time again in the SilmFilm project, is that, the text will say, here's what happened. And you can say, okay, we're going to follow the text exactly. But that means filling in tons of details, because when you're actually trying to make a TV show about it, right? There's so much, but you can't just do stuff like that. You can't just say, and then Celebrimbor made the three, and you've got to answer all these other questions. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, there's more that we can say. We haven't said anything about Elrond's awesome armor, or about.
Well, we can also save behind the scenes for next week. I mean, we only have 10 minutes left, so.
Oh, that's true. We might as well save behind the scenes for next week.
Yeah.
Unless you just want to watch it and do immediate reactions.
Let's keep going. Well, I guess I could go either way. What do you guys want?
Yeah.
Now, let's keep going with the trailer.
Okay.
I feel like we're nearly there. And then if we want to do a once watch through behind the scenes and then talk, we can do that.
Another thing that I think is really interesting is the troll. So remember, one of the things the showrunners were saying last time is that as we're moving backwards in Middle-earth time, they're very sensitive to the fact that in Tolkien's world, everything gets like smaller and lesser as time goes on. Meaning, when you jump back into the Second Age, things need to be greater, including things like orcs. And so they were making a big deal. This was part of the conversation they had surrounding that first orc battle with Bronwyn in the cottage in season 1, right? About how killing an orc is like a huge accomplishment because orcs back then were greater and more powerful than orcs in the Third Age came to be. And I think you can see them doing a very similar thing. I don't know with trolls. I mean, like, I don't know if this dude, the troll here, is is that the only time we see him in this trailer? Did we see him earlier? I think it was just that, right?
I think it's just that one at the end.
Notice, by the way, the parallel between the tromping ent here and the tromping troll, right? Those are kind of in, here, right? I think they're doing the same thing with the trolls, right? I don't know if this is like the proto-troll or something, but this troll is bigger and greater than trolls in certainly than we see in the Lord of the Rings, and especially in the Lord of the Rings movies. Yes, Tyler, I was looking at the list of tracks. Did you see, Maggie, did you see that the soundtrack
No.
tracks dropped today?
Oh, no, I hadn't seen that yet.
Yeah, let me...
that revealing?
Well, there was one thing that I found particularly revealing, and that is... Hang on, let's see if I can see it. Here's the press release. Okay, here we go. So, hang on, let me make it a little bigger. No, it's not letting me do that really easily. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. There we go.
We can see that.
That's better. Okay. Old Tom Bombadil is the first track.
Featuring Rufus Wainwright.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Featuring Rufus Wainwright. Okay, right. I'll accept cookies. Just go away. Rune. Featuring The Mystery of the Bulgarian Voices, which, okay, I'm loving it. Life in the Canyon, Golden Leaves, featuring Benjamin Walker. Círdan's Perfection. What an interesting track title. Stone Singers, okay. Sandstorm at the Well. Sandstorm at the Well seems to be that tornado scene that we got, right, in Rune. Eregion, Emissary at the Forge. I assume that's the Anatar Reveals song. We've got a Shelob song. We've got a Pyre song. Funeral Pyre, Bronwyn's Funeral Pyre, presumably. Estrid, the Great Eagle, The River Daughter. There's my favorite one. So there's a whole song about Goldberry. So I'm just saying, that's the one that captured my attention too. The fact that there's a whole River Daughter song, I think that's a good sign. I don't necessarily know that this means that Goldberry is going to be a real character in the show, but if there's a River Daughter song, I think that would seem to me to answer the question of, are they married yet or not? A Barow White song, Forgiveness Takes an Age. Okay. Candles on the Tide. Not sure about that. The Last Ballad of Damrod, who I think is the troll.
Lots of Tom Bombadil, though.
Yeah, lots of Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
Battle for Eregion, Durin's Bane, Last Temptation, The Staff, Old Tom Bombadil Reprise. This is the one featuring Rory Kinnear and Daniel Wayman, as I said. they said they'd both be singing, right? There they are, both singing, and the sun yet shines, which sounds to me kind of like a Hobbit song.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay, so there it is, the track list. This is today's news. Why Damrod? I don't know why Damrod either. Damrod, of course, Damrod is a name from the Lord of the Rings. It's one of the Rangers of Ithilien who finds Frodo and Sam. Why is the troll named Damrod? I don't know. I will be very interested to see why that should be. What the Ballad of a Troll sounds like, don't know. But yeah. I figured as I doubt we're gonna get, an attempted drowning of Tom Bombadil, the like How I Met My Wife sequence with Tom Bombadil. Strongly doubt that. As I said,
deleted scene, gag reel.
Deleted scene. Yeah. I don't know that I don't know that having the River Daughter song suggests, as I say, that Goldberry is even going to be cast necessarily. But that she's a concept seems for sure. Right. Anyway, yeah.
Maybe that's why if she's not present on screen, maybe that's their way of saying she is present.
Right.
That's kind of...
Right. Maybe.
Well, we'll have to ask Bear when we talk to him.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, we'll ask Bear about that. Anyway, so yeah, track list. That was today's news. Right.
Cool.
Okay, so lots of battle scenes. There's a lot that we could take from this, but I don't. This sort of standoff is the last image. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say there's a lot we can go into with this, but this really just kind of smacks as like a culminating climax of a trailer for me. Like, yeah, there's lots of little details that we can talk about, but also it feels very like, yep, culminating, high point, title.
Right. So one thing that I think is... we get a clear sense of the different stages of the battle from this shot. The battle at Eregion, I mean. We've seen the like flaming trebuchet shots, right? Notice what we see here in this scene. Eregion is smoking, but it's not on fire. The Elrond and the elf cavalry are galloping in to the rear of the orc army, right? You can tell not only because the city's on the other side of it, but even like this like cage wagon that we see, that's probably something they would have in the back of the army, like if that's prisoners or something. Again, like this is not, the orc army isn't attacking. This seems to be a relief column, be a relief charge being led by Elrond. So how exactly this sequence comes down, we don't know, but I would guess that this is a glimpse into the final phase of the battle here, as Elrond and the elf cavalry are coming in to rescue Eregion, presumably too late, or mostly too late. As again, there's a lot of smoke already over there. But anyway, yeah, so and yeah, the I agree that the animated One Ring rotating around is interesting. That mark is really interesting too. That very prominent engraving that we can see.
Oh, that's interesting. I can't tell what it is, if anything.
No, I can't either. And there's markings up on this side of the O as well.
Yeah.
When you see it end on there are angles where it almost looks like there could be writing around the edge, but I don't think there is. Yeah, I agree. It looks like the markings are like the markings we can see on the other letters.
Mm.
In other words, that's not the One Ring. That's just the letter O. It's just that the letter O is rotating so as to invite us to think of a ring. But it's not the ring. The ring has no markings on it. No engraving. Yeah. So yeah, I think...
But again, doesn't mind that we associate the One Ring with that.
No, it doesn't. And I see no evidence whatsoever that the One Ring is going to be forged in this season. We haven't seen a single shot that implies that.
Nor anything that even threatens that. And I feel like if that's something they were building up to, they would have built up to that by now.
There would have been something to tease it, something to point to it. But there hasn't been. Pacing-wise, I'm cool with that. If the first move is the corruption of the rings themselves, and then the second move is, like, the next phase in Sauron's plan is, now I'm going to forge my ring, and then things will really get shady in Eregion, in Eregion, here in Middle-earth. That would be the plot. The forging of the One Ring and the attempted dominion of the others and the putting off of the three and the final phases of the war and invasion of Eriador. If those are the things that happen in season 3, that would make a lot of sense. But yeah, this is not the One Ring, so...
Just a tease.
Yes. It's like it, but it isn't it. Okay. Well, the orcs seem awfully confident. Again, you can see Eregion smoking behind them. It's interesting. Not how I would expect an army that has just been suddenly attacked from the rear right after they thought they've already won would be acting. Huh.
Whoa.
And the whole last... So from here, the entire last 20 seconds of the trailer is this sequence. Elrond calling the charge, the orcs receiving the charge, and then, just before the clash. It's all the one sequence, clearly.
Yeah.
We don't know when this is. Again, there's a lot of... This is, I think, a different phase in the battle or something. I've never been clear on what is going on.
This one looks totally different to me. I think that would be part of the Barow Wights or something. But
whatever their quest is, yeah.
Yeah, maybe this dragged on for many hours in different locations.
Yeah. Yeah, the initial parts of the siege of Eregion. Yeah. Yeah. We don't get much from Arondir and Isildur in this trailer. Brief interaction with the Ents. Brief attack by spiders. Here. That's a lovely frame right there. I really like bringing Isildur into contact with Shelob. Just because, of course, just for geographical purposes, to have Isildur exploring the pass of Cirith Ungol, right, and discovering that Shelob is there. Great. Love it. Love it. The idea, one potential sort of idea from this is that Isildur, because Isildur builds Minas Ithil, which becomes Minas Morgul, which is guarding the pass that comes over here. So like basically it suggests that part of the function of Minas Ithil in the first place is to be like, let's there's a pest control issue here in these mountains. Let's bottle that up right quick, right? And so anyway, I kind of love that idea actually. But yeah, that's all we get from Isildur. I really like the Ent wife.
I do too. I think her look is great, and you can tell it's a feminine Ent.
Mm-hmm. The blossoming tree is again based on Tolkien's description that fits. I like the look of these Ents so much. I mean, I've never been a fan of the Ents in The Lord of the Rings. I just don't like them. Visually, I never liked them. I like Treebeard's eyes okay in the movie, but I never really liked the Ents that much, visually speaking. But I like these Ents much better.
That's good.
Their arms look more branch-like. The proportions.
Yeah, I like how they move too.
Yes, that's another thing I never liked about Treebeard was how he moved. Always looked a little too mechanical. The size, yeah, they're much bigger. Tree-sized, right? I mean, you can look, it's like one tree moving among the other trees there. The face, as we were saying, I like the face much better than we were getting. And part of it is it's not fair because part of it is just better CGI, right? I mean, I like the comparative mobility of the face. Like, look at the expressions we can see in her brows and, you know, the movement of her mouth and everything. That's just, it just looks better because the CGI is way better now than it was, you know, in the year 2000, which is not a big shock.
And they had time to develop their own concept art. We already have in our mind what an Ent should look like. And they've just kind of played with that a little bit more.
Yeah. No, I think it's fun. I think I like... One of the other things that I really like about her face here is that it's... it doesn't look just like a human face. Treebeard's face in the film looked like sort of the mockery of a human face, right? With the big old clunky nose and everything. And she has eyes, and she has kind of brow movements to make her eyes expressive, and she has a mouth so she can speak. She has no nose at all. Well, she has kind of a ridge between her eyes. But she looks more organically tree-ish than Treebeard did, because of Treebeard's more human face. Yeah, I love that she's in bloom too. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, okay, we should go. It's we're over time here, but yeah, yeah, Madagat. That's exactly what I was thinking about it. Like, the face is mobile enough to make understandable expressions, but it's not overtly humanoid.
Yeah.
Not overly humanoid. Yeah, exactly.
But also still able to show, like, I mean, this face just looks kind. And to be able to say that a face looks kind when it doesn't actually have any human features, it's lovely. Yeah, I look forward to seeing more of that and seeing how they talk and interact as well. Because I liked Peter Jackson's Ents. I didn't mind that, but they became a bit farcical. They became quite comical.
That's what I disliked about it from the start.
And not the vibe I ever got from the Ents. So I feel like there's already a little bit more gravitas to these guys.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool. Well,
so we'll hit behind the scenes next time.
We'll hit behind the scenes next time, right? We'll hold on to it and see if we can do that.
I'm at summer camp next week, but I should be able to make this, so I'll let
Okay.
you know if anything changes.
All right, yeah, it's a little bit of an adventure here. I should be around next Monday afternoon, so I think we should be. So we'll plan on it. We'll
Yep.
plan on next Monday for the behind the scenes stuff. Lots more stuff to talk about. We'll see if there's anything further that we learn between now and then. We're getting closer and closer to the to the premiere, to the actual launch of the first 3 episodes. A lot of this just, doing this kind of analysis of the, the narrative and shape of the trailer as we've been doing, just kind of gets me ready to do, to do analysis of the episodes when they come out. So excited for that. Looking forward to that. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will see you again next week. Don't forget, go to Kickstarter and check out Rings and Realms Season 2 Kickstarter. Would love your support for that, and stay tuned for exciting new updates there. You can also subscribe to the Rings and Realms YouTube channel so that you can get all of the updates there through that mechanism as well. And also watch our funny update videos. All right, everybody. Thanks very much. See you guys soon.
Take care, guys.
Bye now.
Bye.